The Boys has ended. That was it. Whether you like the ending or not, that was the ending. What a character, right? Anthony Starr. What a performance. The performance of his lifetime. But that really makes you think. It really makes you introspect on the life of Homelander. It makes you think about all those times where he was not an absolutely irredeemable piece of filth. Because even when you try to make a character a complete caricature, just completely despicable, human garbage, you have something that's redeemable. You have something there that, like, when you look at the high school bully and you're like, you have so much potential, you could be something different. That's the kind of thing you look at Homelander, because he's not just a Joffrey type of character, pure evil villain, okay? He is a kid that was tortured, abused, and never got a chance in life. Okay, so here are the top times in which Homelander was not completely 100% evil, like maybe 95%. Okay, where you saw sparks of a different story or a different outcome for him. First of all, the first thing that I ever noticed in this series was the airplane scene. Okay, now, to Homelander's credit, he went there actually trying to save people. He didn't go there trying to cause a catastrophe. He didn't go there as a sadist. He went there to do his job. And that was pretty much it. Okay, he completely failed at that. And he didn't even try. A lot of people will say, what was he supposed to do? In this universe, it's not like he can walk on air. He has to actually propel himself from somewhere. And the way he says is like, what am I supposed to do? On one side, you see his logic, okay? On the other side, it's like, you didn't even try, dude. He leaves all those people to die, and even worse, he chooses not to save anyone. Like, he would prefer the truth not get out, so that he avoids even saving one or two people, by letting everyone perish. That is evil. On the other hand, he threatens to laser everybody, and he doesn't do it. He just sort of lets bad things happen. That's one case in which, it wasn't exactly his fault 100% of the time, but it was very much his fault. Like, he was still being evil, but it was not completely, he didn't cause this for once. So you have to give him credit there. Now, that was one thing. The second time in which the series shows Homelander being kind of redeemable is when he was fighting Maeve. A lot of people were surprised that when he was getting punched by her and he's bleeding, she made him bleed. He did not react. Not only does he spare her, but he actually tries to de-escalate the situation. Very out of character for him. Instead of just going full-on man-child and lasering her, which he can very easily do, he doesn't do it. And he tries to actually bring the tension down. His patience there was actually very out of character for him. It's a very weird scene. It's a scene that really catches your eye, because it's exactly that moment where the bully, the sadist, doesn't do what you expect him to do. Okay, very surprising scene. Another thing, Ryan, his son, he does not lose his patience with his kid for most of the time. Ryan lasers Stormfront. He lasers her in the forest, and Homelander does not destroy him for that. That's very surprising. That's another kind of very redeemable thing where you see that he does have love for his son. No matter what you can say, he has a lot of love for his son, but it's a kind of twisted, corrupt, narcissistic type of love at the same time. It's not real love. It's not love as such. But this is one instance of Homelander not being an absolute murderous psychopath and sadist and whatever the writers want to make him, like, very evil, despicable, so that it turns your stomach, which he has 99% of the times in the series. Okay, that is the exception, essentially. It surprises you. Okay, another thing, Butcher. How many times do they meet each other, Butcher and Homelander, face to face, and they're just having this cat and mouse game? If he wanted to, Homelander could have lasered the boys 100 times over. He could have just punched a hole through Butcher's head. He never does that. And they kind of have a Batman and Joker type of situation, which is why the ending kind of rubbed everyone the wrong way. Because if he wanted to, Butcher, like Homelander could have done so many things to Butcher, and he doesn't. Just because he finds him entertaining and he likes being hated. He enjoys that attention. Again, because he's a narcissist. So many times it's like, "Oi, Homelander, what are you doing?" And, you know, William sees him, they're face to face, and he doesn't use his superpowers to destroy him. Very surprising. The same thing with Huey, you know, the boys, he could have done that so many times. Now, this is the 5th time in which Homelander doesn't do something very despicable, and a lot of people are actually complaining about this. He doesn't completely lose his shit and destroy the entire world, which is something that everyone was expecting. That's why the series was kind of underwhelming. He doesn't do that. He doesn't cause an absolute apocalypse. And this is kind of halfway there in terms of this video and the topic, because basically he doesn't do that because he likes the attention, right? So here it's not because he's not irredeemable or because he's a good person or he has some good in him. No, it's literally because he doesn't want to be hated by people. It is said in the series at one point that he has this endless need for love and admiration, and he cannot ever quelch that. It's never going to get quenched. Ever. That's why he doesn't destroy everybody. But what about those times when he gets hated on, or in the finale, you could have had a situation in which he realizes, you know, the people are not on his side anymore, and then he goes on a rampage. He doesn't do that, which really shows that kind of the writing is a little bit lackluster in terms of that Homelander could have been more evil in terms of what the writers were going for. A lot of weaknesses there, a lot of hesitation. People have been complaining about that the Homelander in season 1 is not the same Homelander as the final season. And that's the thing, you know. It's really a lot of the things that he could have done, he didn't really do. Which you could say is lackluster writing. A lot of the times it's because he either didn't want to, or there was like a spark there. There was a spark of John and not just Homelander. You know, you could see that. Another thing, right, by the way, Huey, so many times he could have killed that guy. He never does it. He never does it. Why? This is why this fits so well into this. It's because, no, it's not because he's either afraid or he wants admiration. Those things nullify the redeemableness character quality, okay? It's because he sees him as underneath him. He sees him as very weak, pathetic, and underneath him, and so he doesn't really bother with him. So that's another thing, right? He might spare a person if he sees him as underneath him. He just won't bother. Or someone who's a worthy adversary, he might also spare him, okay? Without a doubt, when it comes to the first airplane scene, he could have saved all those people. He has like a built-in switch to help people as long as it benefits his public persona. He gets that kind of love and attention and admiration, which is something that I would argue a lot of people, most people probably have. But with him, it's kind of like this twisted thing that's a traumatic response, and it's misapplied in so many situations, and he's basically a villain. Okay, so these are all the times that he could have been redeemable, but he was not. You know, and it could have been interesting to see an alternative ending where you see different sides of him. You know, a lot of people are speculating, could he have been rehabilitated? They think about that. They look at Anthony Starr in different movies where he's just like a normal dude, and he's like, you should have continued the boys in this sort of way, which I don't think so. The ending was in some ways fine, a little bit over the top, but you know, that's pretty much it. You know, when you see Homelander, you see a man who was broken, you see basically a villain who could have been something else, and he turned out that way. But in those small sparks of kind of like, it's not even humanity, he doesn't have any humanity, okay, but you see different nuances of the character, and that's very interesting, while still remaining completely evil irredeemable, and there's nothing to be done about it. Okay, so that's the video, and that was The Boys. The end. Goodbye.